Good morning, Starshines, and welcome to your virtual lab number 2. In today's lab, we'll be focusing on evolution. So, as you can see on the screen, I have the PDF opened of today's lab. And the problem for today's lab is how can natural selection be modeled? Now, when you think of natural selection, you should automatically think of genetic diversity among a species, which allows for its continued survival. Alrighty, so I'm actually going to annotate here natural selection. And to simply put it, when you think of natural selection, you should think of survival of the fittest. So now I am going to type that in. So survival of the fittest. If I can find my text box. Okay, where is it? Wait, where is it? This is terrible. No. Oh, I see it. Okay, here we go. A little technical difficulty. Never stopped anyone. Alrighty, so again, here we are going to write, oh my goodness, this is terrible. We're going to write survival of the fittest. And then I'm going to color that in so we can see it, highlight it. If I can make it bigger, I would. I don't know if I can at this point. Alrighty, there we go. Survival of the fittest. And again, in the species, genetic diversity that helps, it's essentially the genetic diversity that helps continue on the species survival. In this virtual lab, you'll examine how animals with different mutations survive in specific environmental conditions. You will discover how natural selection changes populations. All right, so I'm actually going to annotate that here as well, because that's ultimately the purpose of this lab, right? We're going to discover how natural selection changes a species population. So here we have some background information. I'm going to read through it and annotate some things that I feel stick out. If while you're reading it, there are things that stick out to you that I didn't highlight, please be sure to annotate them. Okay, so background information. In the mid-1800s, an English scientist named Charles Darwin developed the theory of evolution by natural selection. Although minor changes have been made to Darwin's theory as new information has been gathered, this theory is accepted today as one of the most important concepts in the study of life science. I think that's noteworthy. Make that purple, okay, or blue. Natural selection explains how populations of organisms evolve. Yeah, I'm gonna actually annotate that as well. Perfect. Populations are groups of organisms in the same species that live in a defined area. Oh, also noteworthy. Okay. Natural selection means that organisms with traits best suited to their environment are most or more likely to survive. Organisms tend to produce more offspring than can survive. For example, fish lay thousands of eggs, ensuring that a small percentage will survive to adulthood. A variation is the appearance of a genetic trait that makes an individual different from other members of its species. These variations result from mutations, random changes in an organism's DNA. All right, again, so these variations result from mutations, which are also known as random changes in an organism's DNA. For example, a mutation in a species of fish may produce individuals that differ from the rest of the species in color, fin and tail size, and speed. Some mutations enable members of a population to better survive and reproduce. Such beneficial variations may enable individuals to obtain food and space and escape from predators. So these are some of the benefits that can come from different variations or different mutations that lead to different variations. A fast fish with a skin color that allows it to blend in with its surroundings is more likely to survive and reproduce than a slow fish with more conspicuous coloring. Over time, offspring of individuals are with adaptations that allow them to survive better, make up more and more of a population. I think that's noteworthy as well. Make up more and more of a population. All right. Depending on the type of adaptation and the rate of reproduction of the organism, as well as environmental conditions, it may take many generations for an adaptation to become predominant in an entire population. So essentially what they mean by that is you won't see a change in a species population overnight. These things take time, changes over time, which is essentially the meaning of evolution. Alrighty. Now, for today's lab procedure, number 1, you're going to choose a mutation on the website. The link is included in the package, so make sure you just click on that link and it'll take you right to where you need to go. Now, you're going to first choose a mutation to investigate by clicking the arrow at the bottom of the mutations window. So you're going to have 3 different mutations to choose from. Next, you're going to click the arrow at the bottom of the conditions window, and you're going to select the condition that will affect the survival of the selected animals. Because again, for evolution to even come about, there has to be some type of change in the environment. Okay, so that condition is what you're changing in the environment, which is forcing the evolution, natural selection to occur. 3, you're going to click Begin Natural Selection button and observe what happens to the animals after 5 generations. Now, what do we mean by generations? I'm going to actually highlight that here. Okay, so as I said before, we won't see an evolution overnight, okay? It usually takes time. So in each generation, that's each member of a species living at the same time at different times, right? So generation 1 could be the 90s, and then generation 2 would be the 2000s, and then generation 3 could be to 2010, so on and so forth, okay? It's about the members of that population that live together in that time frame. Number 4, it says to click the population graph button to open up a graph of data for the entire population changes over 5 generations. This is very important. The yellow line represents the population of animals with the mutation, aka the mutant animals, and the blue line, I should have maybe did this differently, but highlighted it differently, but the blue line represents the population of animals without the mutation, aka the normal animals. In your observation chart, you will be observing and writing down the information from these graphs, so make sure you do open them. Step 5 says repeat the virtual lab and investigate different mutations and conditions. And number 6, of course, you're going to complete the conclusion question. Now, before we get into the observations, we need to actually check out the website. So now I'm going to go to the website. Here we are, okay? Once you come to the website, it's pretty straightforward. We see we have our 2 menus here, the mutation and the conditions menu. Sorry guys, I'm outside right now, so I know it's pretty loud, but you know, I need the sunshine. And you should get sunshine too if you can. Alrighty, now back into this lab. When I click on my mutations table, I see I have 3 options, as I said before in the reading. The first option, the exemplar model, we're going to go for large body and long legs, okay? Now, that's the mutation. So I'm going to assume that whatever animal they're going to show us is maybe a rather small one, and then we're going to have some that are larger than the others. For conditions, this is what determines a species' survival. We have A, new predator, or B, restricted food. I'm going to choose A, new predator. And as you can see, once I click that, we have the scenario planted on the screen, right? So if we look here, we see we have our normal animals here, which are pretty small. And then we have the mutant animals, which are much bigger than the normal sized animals. For the predator, we also see that we have a fox here. So the fox is on the prowl. Once I have my scenario pictured, I'm going to press begin natural selection. As natural selection, later. Yes. So as we can see, with 5 generations later, we see that we have 3 mutant animals and we have 1 normal, okay? Now, with this information, I'm going to look at the population graph. When I look at my population graph, it also goes with my observation that I just said, right? If we look at the key here, it says normal animals, and at normal animals, we see that we start with 50. In the first generation, it goes down. The second generation, it goes down again. The third generation, we see that we're on a steady decline, right? And at the last and 5th final generation, we see that we're ending with about 19 animals, 19 normal animals. Now, if we look at the number of animals with the mutant animals, at the first generation, at the start, we started with 10. So there were only 10 of these animals that had the actual mutation, who had this genetic variation. Over time, as the fox began to hunt, the larger animals were able to escape. Maybe because their longer limbs were able to get them to where they needed to, help them run faster or what have you. So as we can see in the first generation, we started with 10. At the end of generation 1, we have less than 20, but we see we have more than 10. And as you can see, we're kind of on a steady incline. And at our last and final generation, generation 5, we have about 39 animals. Less than what we started with normal animals, but much more than what we started with the mutant animals. After we collected data from our this population graph, you are going to go to your observation table, which I'm going to go to that right now. Go back to it, rather. Okay, here we go. And under your observations, I already pre-filled it in for you. So EX stands for the example. And for the mutation we used for the first example was large legs and body. The condition that we chose was new predator. And to answer the question of which animal is more fit, I would say the mutant animal. And why? Is because the larger body and legs help the species get away and survive from their predators, right? Now, there are also sentence starters. For the example version, or the example model, well, the directions say using the graphs in each demo, complete the following sentence starters for each demo. So for the example model, it says, at the start of generation 1, there were 50 normal animals. There were 10 mutant animals. At the end of generation 5, there were 19 normal animals and 38 mutant animals. Alrighty? So after each demo and condition that you play with, you're going to be filling in the chart, the table, and the sentence starters. When you're finished with that, you're gonna head over to your conclusion questions. Make sure that when you're answering your conclusion questions, you're using complete sentences, and be sure to use information from your graphs and any observations that you've made during the demo. Alrighty, good luck. I'm sure you guys will do fine. Have a great day. Happy quarantining, and good luck. Bye.